Hello and welcome to Access Chat. I'm delighted that we're joined today by Sulaiman Khan. Sulaiman is the Chief Purpose Officer, got this right this time, at ThisAbility. Known Sulaiman for a couple of years now and have been meaning to fix a date, so it's great to finally have you on here. Give us a little bit about who you are and what you're doing. It'd be great for our audience to know a bit more about you, Sulaiman.
Sure. So hello everybody. My name is Sulaiman. I'm an exploratory storyteller and adventurer. I'm also the founder and chief purpose officer of ThisAbility, which is a disability-led equity consultancy. So basically, through my business, we ignite, invest in, and amplify disabled creativity across the world. So I'm very interested with creativity and disability, because not many businesses or brands are really engaging in disability or creativity at the moment. So I'm very passionate about that.
Excellent. And I know that, you know, I got introduced to you through an old friend of mine, Vicky Ross, and
Yeah.
you're interested in, you know, creative writing and copywriting and
Yeah.
language and so on. But you're also, and we were just discussing this offline, a bit of a peacock. So you're interested in you know, in clothes and color and Instagram, and you have some great social feeds as well. So
I think that's part of the thing. When people think of disabled people, you think that you have to be really, really miserable, have a terrible life. You must be horrible, and you have to just look the same as well. So you have to wear very clinical clothes. You have to look like life is such a horrible thing. Oh, you're so disabled. You know, and actually, I don't have time for that narrative anymore. And so I think it's really interesting, you know, as I get older, how I'm trying to just, you know, change the narrative for myself rather than trying to fit into a narrative that society or anybody else wants me to be. Because, like, particularly in terms of fashion and media, I think there's so much lack of diverse representation in terms of disability and disabled people. And yeah, I think it's very, very important.
and you do a fabulous line in sequence, right?
Yeah, exactly. I wish I did. Coming soon.
Yeah, gold lame. I've seen the gold lame. I've seen the rainbow print.
Yeah.
Yeah. So all right, well, I'll have to get you some sequins.
Definitely.
Excellent. So I've got a question before I hand over to Debra and Antonia. You mentioned about the fact that you're investing into disabilities, investing into other disabled businesses and so on. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So back in the past, when I first started about 4 years ago, I was basically a network for disabled talent, and then about a year or two ago, I was not feeling that at all, and I felt that I was being very, very pressured to be that type of business, like a network, almost like a recruiter for disabled people. But I kind of changed it, actually. I didn't want to say the word empower, so I wanted to invest in, because what often happens with disabled people and disabled businesses is there's no investment. So what I'm slowly starting to do is actually, you know, build up, you know, income to actually invest back into the disabled community. I think that's very, very important, rather than, because, like, as Cindy Gallup says best, don't empower me, pay me. I think that whole idea of actually, you know, disabled people having value and being paid for their work, which is still an ongoing struggle that I face daily in terms of organizations and businesses saying they don't have a budget, or they're, you know, or saying that I'm kind of that kind of a charity or that kind of thing. And that's, in general, disabled people we treated so badly in terms of, you know, how people want to see us or invest in us. So actually, I want to, so I made an active decision to start to, you know, figure out how I can do that and things, and push that forward.
Okay, so you like to tell stories.
I love
No,
stories.
no, what are no? If you look to the way to the web today, to Twitter, to social media channels, to Instagram, is there a particular topic or a particular trend that you are following or you are exploring more than anything else?
I think that's a really, really good question. I think I get very fascinated by everything. I get really excited by lots of different things. My mind is like 300 miles an hour on that. I get really excited. So for me in particular, as the older I get, I'm questioning disability and disabled people and what I, even as a disabled person, or I know that to constantly question and learning and finding new trends and like learning, for example, about like more about disability justice and disability solidarity, and just really trying to unpack those narratives and the kind of understanding like stories. I think for me the most powerful thing that there is stories, and specifically words. I think words are such a powerful way, whether it's through Twitter or through blog posts or writing or whichever. I just like words and writing, and I think it's something that really allows the imagination to really run wild. I think particularly with pictures or video, you basically have to not really use your imagination, but with words you can really challenge people. You can really use really interesting narratives, how you talk about yourself and how you do stuff. And I really love to write myself.
And this was really how we got introduced. And I know I'm just jumped on Debra's toes, but this was exactly how we got introduced, because you were interested in copywriting and creative writing, and full circle back to Vicky. Debra, over to you. I am jumping off your toes.
Well, no. I think there's so much I love about this interview. I'm all excited because it's like, yay, this is my kind of conversation. But I love what you were saying about creativeness and innovation, because one thing we know for sure is that when we have diverse populations, these populations are more innovative. And we see that in the workforce. We see that in society across the board. We certainly see it in education. And so I think you are really right. I never thought about it exactly from that angle. I've talked about it a lot, but having an organization that's focused on really celebrating who we are, who we each are, and so much of society does decide that you must have a sad life. Before we got on air, it was very clear when you were talking about all your travels and where you've lived and what you're doing, that I want your life. So it sounds like you have a much more fun life than I do.
No, Debra, and let me interject to one of our friends on Twitter, Esther from Spain. Sometimes she said, yes, I like radical sports. Why shouldn't I like radical sports?
Yeah.
We're still cramming people in a box.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's
part
of the that's part of the frustration for me as a disabled person. Like, first of all, people don't want to say the word, or not people, non-disabled people insist on saying differently abled, special needs.
Just say
diversibility or human difference. So like, just say disabled, say disability. There's nothing wrong with the word. Just say the damn word. And I think for me, like, the older I get, I get really excited by the creativity, the infinite imagination that disabled people have. And I think because from a very, very young age, disabled people, we have to be creative. We have to be innovative and have ingenuity and have, resilience and all the things that so-called organizations say they want, because we have to do that, because we have to hack ableism, we have to hack the inaccessibility of the world, we have to challenge perceptions, we have to, all these microaggressions that we face, and particularly like when you add intersectionality, so like race or gender into the mix as well. I think you can't isolate ableism from racism or classism or sexism. It's all interconnected, and I think particularly for myself, like as a person of color and a wheelchair user and all the different intersections, facing challenges within the South Asian communities, I struggled, and again, facing challenges even within the disabled community. I think that needs to be addressed as well, but the way I know how to do it is through my creativity and through my dark sense of humor, basically. And yeah.
Because I think because then you humanize the issues, because I think part of the reason why we have trouble with the words, and we're all about wordsmithing and the and word policing in the US, and I love that about us. I think we sometimes miss the point of what we're doing, but regardless, I always say to corporations I'm dealing with, please do not change the language. It is not your job to change the language. It is the community's decision to have, and each individual's decision on how they want to be identified. It is not your job. Oh no, but we came up with this really cool way. Stop it. Stop it. But I think the society disables people. We say that all the time. Society disables people. Society designers don't make things accessible. So it's society disabling people. And I think it is so important that we see voices like yours and we hear your stories and the stories of your peers, because generally, people, that have disabilities, but not apparent disabilities are the ones that are talking about it. And it's important that they be talking about it. It's very important because right now, I think we still are in a place in society where we have to put on all the labels so that we understand what we're talking about, but then the labels are then used to discriminate against us. So obviously in the United States right now, we are fighting, really, really fighting about this intersectionality and discrimination and Black Lives Matter. And then the President of the United States was saying yesterday that a lot of police are killing white people too. And it's like, of course, and that is, that's unfortunate. Let's really reform our police. But what an African-American in the United States, a darker colored person other than my skin color, has to walk, it's very different. It's very different. And we're just ripping all the, everything apart so we can really dig in deep. And it's going to take us so many years to really fix this. But we've never seen so much progress. It's very bumpy and very messy and frightening. And I live in Richmond, Virginia, which is the capital of the Confederacy, if we go back, which we do. But also, it is also the capital of Virginia, one of the states in the United States. But we had all these Civil War statues on this road we called the Boulevard. And we had them all, and they've all been either taken down by, the, government or the people. And, we've changed the flag in South Carolina. Finally, the Washington Redskins are realizing they have a racist name, because we've been saying that but Aunt Jemima, it's interesting what we're doing, but at the same time, it feels still like it's the easy things. It's like we're taking the small things. And how do we use work like you're doing? How do we convince people that people with disabilities aren't broken? Their lives matter, and they can have fun and be creative. I think that's, and I don't want to keep... I
completely agree with you. I think, just because something is difficult, I think disability is one of those things that hasn't been, we're the world's largest minority, 20% of the world's population, yet systematically, consistently, over time, we're not supported, we're not engaged within society. And I completely agree with you. Just because something is difficult doesn't mean we shouldn't, at least have that conversation. Okay, we're not all going to have the answers, including disabled people, but if we don't dig deep and start doing the work, nothing is going to change. And so I remember several years ago when I had the meeting in the UK Parliament with Transport for London, because the underground is not very accessible, long story. And so basically I had a meeting with the head of Transport for London, talking about accessible transport. And he was basically saying, London underground system, the train system, is very old. It's the oldest in the world, da, da, da. And I got really frustrated. I said, actually, hold on a minute. yes, I understand that. However, if you don't start now, 5 years time, 10 years time, it's going to be even older. So you have to really, change and have that conversation. Actually, just treat disabled people like people. Like we know what we're doing. We have inherent value. We have a need. We have, that kind of thing. And so it's just trying to, I just get very frustrated. I think like anybody, we have good days and bad days, and what we're learning, older I get, like my disability, 100%, it does define me, but it doesn't confine me. And I think even disabled people ourselves, we get caught into that ableist narrative. Oh, I did this despite my disability. Oh, despite my disability, I was able to achieve this. And whoa, hold on a minute. All those things I am, what I've achieved, what I'm doing today is 100% because of my disability. And I can't erase it. I can't get rid of it. And the older I get, I'm like, yes, I get to skip the queue at Disney World. I get free parking. What else could I want? Seriously. So it's like, and so I think for me, it's just trying to use that creativity in a way that works for me in a way that's challenging and thought-provoking, and it is openly and honestly, running a business is by yourself as a disabled entrepreneur is ridiculously challenging and frustrating day to day. And particularly in the UK, there is no help for disabled entrepreneurs at all whatsoever. And like, it's very frustrating. And it's like, if I just had the right support, the right funding to help me in the way that I needed to be helped, then I would be able to actually do better for myself. If people, organizations, attitudes weren't so ableist, or I could actually get into the building instead of ending up in the goods lift. I could tell you so many funny stories of what happens in the goods lift, but that has to stay in the goods lift. So I think it's like that kind of thing, just that constantly dealing with that ableism and inaccessibility day to day that has such a huge toll on you. I don't think we speak openly enough about internalized ableism. And like, I want to do better for myself. I want to create better life for myself and the community, but I really can't because society, dictates what I can earn, who I can live with, where I can live, how much care I'm allowed to have, even to the fact if I'm allowed to have children or not, which is ridiculous in itself. And I know many of my disabled friends and colleagues are in the very similar situations and that kind of thing.
Yeah. So, I know that we have all of these strictures and I'm going to say Victorian values around disability that we've inherited, where the paternalistic state thought that it was doing the right thing for the poor disabled people, right? And they've not moved on from that time. And you mentioned a number of things. So you're talking about the state deciding whether or not you can have kids and so on. Tell us about that, because I think people would be horrified to know and are probably laboring under the never knew. Yeah. So tell us about this.
Yeah, I think it's very, very shocking because it's happened here and in America. That I know that as when I had a conversation with Tanya Gray Thompson when she said that she was pregnant, people were saying her, oh, you don't deserve to have kids, or you shouldn't have kids, and often kids are taken away just because you're disabled, and it's that whole idea of actually, being disabled, that kind of thing, and that people treat us badly.
Yes. And I know, Deborah, you want to interject as well.
Yeah, I have so many things to say, but I'm gonna not be a mic hog. But I have a daughter with Down syndrome, and whenever she was when she was about 16 years old, I was going to a doctor, a GYN OBN doctor, a ladies doctor, and he'd never met my daughter. And I said, oh, by the way, I have a 16-year-old daughter with Down syndrome, and I really should bring her in to see you. And he said, oh, we should definitely tie her tubes. And I about fell off the chair. I said, what? He said, well, bring her in, let's tie her tubes. He had never met my daughter. And I will say that I never went back to him again. And I changed to a woman doctor, but I was so insulted that he would decide my daughter needed to have her tubes tied when you don't even know who she is. What if she wants to have children? Now, the reality is, my daughter doesn't have children, but for him to, that's the first thing out of his mouth. I was so mad. Sometimes when I get that mad, I'll be a girl and I'll cry. And if you ever make a woman so mad that they cry, you really shouldn't feel sorry for her. You should actually back up a bit, because if you make anyway. But we also are deciding whether or not you can get married in the United States if you have severe disabilities, and you can't live together. Lord forbid that you live together in the same house. It is so archaic. It's amazing. And I think Neil's right. I don't think people understand this.
And
it's
I completely agree.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, I completely agree. There's a case recently in the UK, it was on the news a few months ago. A woman with Down syndrome was trying to change the law, because I didn't know this until it was on the news. Basically, in the UK, I don't remember. So basically, it was, if a child with Down syndrome, you can divorce it up to full term, which is ridiculous. And that is a law in the UK. And
oh my God.
And people with Down syndrome are some of the nicest people you will ever meet in your life. And
they're human beings.
Absolutely, human beings. And so it's just like, wow. And in terms of just understanding how devastating that is, I don't think non-disabled people can actually comprehend that what's such like to actually want to, for example, be in a relationship, have children, like, because as we can, and yet the state or people or society say, no, you're not. That's not a value to you. You don't even deserve even the idea of that.
God,
and so it's very difficult.
It's chilling.
Even how much we earn, that we're not allowed to earn above a certain amount, because then they'll take it away to fund our care, even though that's not our fault, or things like that, or they'll say, oh no, you're not entitled to live here, because then they'll take away your care package. So you have basically, so every aspect of disabled people's lives is commoditized. Our minds, our bodies, our hearts. I think it's so frustrating, but all you really want to do is just get on with life and just live your life how you want to live it.
Right, because I really believe we are souls having a human experience. I believe that with all my heart and being. And I want to say two more things, and then I'm going to mute my mic before Antonio or Neil does, since I'm being a hog. But representation really does matter, and I want you to address that. And I also want to say that you probably also want to be considered more than just a person with a disability. I can tell already by your cheeky personality. And so, but it seems like society wants to constantly remind you every second of the day, you have a disability, but you have a disability, you have a disability. Did you know you have a disability? Let me take care. So I just was wondering if you could sort of address why representation matters. And once again, it's important for people with invisible disabilities, which Neil and I both have, and they have impacted our lives positively and negatively. And so we want people with all the different disabilities talking, but representation matters so much when you're trying to explain the problem. And one more comment, I can talk to you about why we need to make sure that, for example, in the United States, Black Lives Matter, African Americans speak for themselves, but I stand behind them as an ally and say, "What, this is ridiculous. Why is this happening? Let's stop this. Let's have police reform." But it's actually more powerful for people like my colleague, Lamondre, who is African-American. He also is a man with a physical disability, to speak, and for me to support him. So I just I had a feeling you wanted to say something about that, and I'm muting Neil and Antonio.
Yeah, cool. I absolutely agree. I think representation is hugely important, because whether you have an invisible disability or a visible disability, if you don't see people like you represented in every aspect of society, from the media to the workplace, I think it's completely devastating in terms of you growing up, in terms of you actually feeling that you have any kind of value in the world or even in society. And I think that, without representation or greater, much faster changes for, particularly in terms of accessibility. When I say accessibility, I'm saying disabled accessibility, not the term that's coined as social mobility, and so that's completely different. And so I think often accessibility gets kind of diverted from its original true meaning. And so I think that's something, and I just think, it's just that I feel that as a disabled person, I don't want to be told what to do or what not to do. And growing up, it was very difficult because even today, I still don't see any, ridiculous people like myself. I think in the society, in media, but for me to actually, I'm trying to be like my own hero, trying to be the person that I really wanted when I was younger. Because I'm so tired of looking for that person that's never going to exist and not going to be there for me. And I think, I think disabled people, we are powerful beyond measure, more than we know, whether you have a physical disability or an invisible disability. And I think it's something so powerful. And I think, I just feel that what's happening right now for the disabled community, this is a real chance for society to really challenge and change and not go back into normality, because normality is how we ended up here in the first place. And, there's many people who were like really, really not being included, particularly disabled people. So I just think representation is, in a long-winded way, what I'm trying to say, representation is very, very important.
Okay, no, we are not far from the end of the interview, and I would like I would like to use this just to ask you: is there a particular project that you are working on at the moment? Is there something that you are, an event that you are going to be speaking in a few weeks? Anything that you are writing about? Give us an update about your work.
Sure. So what I'm doing the last few months for all of us, it had, as you know, been quite challenging and difficult. So what I've been doing last few months is just really looking after my health and trying to focus on that. But what I did do end of last year, I just finished a project, a photo shoot with the Getty images, so to add to the disability collection. And a few weeks ago, I did a talk around diversity in entrepreneurship. So, and I'm having conversations with lots of interesting people, like actual designers and things like that, going into the future. So I'm just trying to keep those conversations going and trying to, but as I said earlier, what's really challenging is actually, getting organizations and even individuals to see my values. That I can't give away like my entire resources and my entire intellectual property and then say, hey, and then expect not to get any kind of value in return. And so I think it's a challenge, but I like challenges. And so I'm just doing things that are just having conversations with designers and artists and things. I had a very good conversation with an artist, a disabled artist in Mexico. I've had a wonderful conversation with a disabled designer in California. So I'm just having those really, and just more looking retrospectively at how do I feel about disability. And as I get older, my condition, I have a physical disability called muscular dystrophy, which is a progressive muscle wasting condition. So the older I get, the weaker my muscles get. So which is why I can't really sit up without my wheelchair anymore. So I'm just thinking that actually, what is a better way? Are we working without getting very fatigued, without actually? So I'm just trying to really focus on working much more strategically and trying to think more creatively, actually, And this whole working from home thing has been amazing. I love it so much because I was actually reframing, actually, do I really need to go out so often? Even though I love to go out, it's amazing. But actually, do I need to go out to do a presentation? Or can I just do it over Zoom, which is so much easier to actually chat to people and actually connect. And so, yeah, I'm just doing that kind of thing, just having conversations at the moment.
And I know that you're actually, you kind of downplaying it, but you're actually a fantastic networker. And so you have, you know, you're bringing in amazing people like Carl Martin and like Cindy Gallup, who are thought leaders in sort of intersecting spaces. So it's you know, you don't have to go out to have these conversations.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's
the fact is, yeah, you've got a magnetic enough personality to bring them to you. And I there are a couple of things that I wanted to pick up on. The one around sort of the state control of stuff, but it's not just state, it's the mindset around being able to procreate. So, for example, there was an agency that was doing sperm donation, and they were refusing to take donations from dyslexic people.
Wow.
So yeah, they've reversed it, but you know, so basically that I couldn't, you know, they wouldn't want me to procreate either. So that ableism is writ large across society. So what's that saying? That's, you know, and the prenatal screening and everything else. These things are, you know, society is making very damaging assumptions about our value and the potential value of people like us in future. And that needs to change. And I want to thank you for continuing to highlight this, you know, consistently and very potently in the work that you do.
Thank you so much. I just feel that it's very important, as you just said very quickly a few minutes ago, in about, you know, I don't have to physically go out, and that's for me a complete mindset. And that's what I want to say to everybody. It's just, if you're not able to go out, or if you're having a lot of anxiety, just, you know, just look after yourself and like really, really understand that what you see in society is not, you know, not what is right. And this, particularly the disabled community are the ones who have really helped me, particularly the last few months, and get through these challenging times, really supported me. So I think having that sense of community, almost like a family, like it's just like a disabled global family that you can just connect with in such a powerful and supportive way, that is incredible. And just chatting to people, you know, and as I said, my friend in California, he's a disabled designer, but recently he started his own coaching practice, which I've been doing coaching with him for the last 8 weeks, and actually having the space to chat to him so openly and not having to talk about ableism or being told, no, I don't feel ableism, it's something else. It's so nice that I don't have to discard my disability. So I think it's important just to find that sense of community, and this actually, and for me, I just always consider myself as well like a work in progress. I think like a continual work in progress. I'm not perfect, or I continually want to learn and unlearn and just relearn. Well, at the moment, I think particularly even about disability, and so for me, it's about progression over perfection. You know, continually just wanting to unlearn as much as I can. Really, I'm gonna stop talking. I could talk to forever.
No, that's cool. So we are reaching the end. So I need to thank Barclays Access, MyClearText, and Microlink for keeping us on air, keeping us captioned. Look forward to you joining us on Twitter on Tuesday. Thank you very much, Sulaiman.
Thank you so much.
We're impressed. Awesome.